Hey, everybody, welcome to the SkyLounge podcast, episode number 261. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Follow me at the SkyLounge on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Podcasts, and also check out the SkyLounge on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And without any further ado, let's get shit started with episode number 261, The Hollow Heart of Our Home, September 11th, 19 years later. Crazy, right? 2001 was 19 years ago. And there's certainly younger kids who aren't even born during that time. And what's wild is, September 11th, 2001, Tuesday morning, I was just a 9-year-old kid living in Los Angeles, heading out to school, Tulsa Elementary. And it's weird? It was just such a fucking normal day, September 11th, 2001. And you enter the classroom, and really throughout, the early parts of the day, there was this kind of eerie feeling all around, and you could get that sense and energy from the teacher. I believe my fourth grade teacher's name was Miss Galetzi. I could be fucking wrong, but I just recall the kind of shaken fear in her eyes, and how a lot of other grown-ups during that time had very similar vibe. And this teacher was trying to explain to us young kids, 9, 10, 8-year-old kids, to the best of her abilities, what happened, and trying to provide context. But when you're a kid, you don't really know what the fuck is going on. Dude, I'm 9 years old at this point. All I want to do is just fuck around on the computer, play some Oregon Trails, and go outside with the other students and play ball and talk shit, because that's what you do as kids. And I remember school being over and thinking, okay, cool, that's weird, but let's just go home. And you know, only having moved into this country at that point, by 2001, it's only been 3 years. You have relatives from Korea calling home all day and all evening as soon as I get back. And my mom is just basically like a secretary picking up the phone left and right, like, oh my God, we're okay. Because, you know, families in South Korea, completely other side of the world. And for them, LA, New York City, even though they're, miles apart, I mean, it's still in the same country. And, my grandparents on both sides, my mom and my dad's, they were checking on me and checking on our family, asking if we're okay. And it's crazy because when I got home, that was when I saw, clips from the ground and, from far away, the towers falling. And I could be wrong with my memory here, but I think inside the elementary school, they showed maybe like one, news clip of the plane just crashing in. But regardless if that detail is correct or not. And reminding you kids, I'm trying to recall details from 19 fucking years ago, and it's very difficult to do. But what really sticks to my mind from 19 years ago was watching those buildings fall and just completely explode. It was something that I've never seen before in my life. You're a 9-year-old kid, right? You watch, these sci-fi action movies. I mean, hell, Phantom Menace just came out in 1999, 2 years prior to that. So my brain, still, into fantasy and all this shit. So you think some part of my brain would be able to just kind of distinguish that real life shit can happen, but it was a shock. It was a complete shock watching, buildings, explode, and people on the ground covered in ashes, running, screaming, crying. It was just unbelievable. And it's still in my brain. I mean, a lot of those video clips from 2001, I mean, they're still pretty much wrapped in my head. And really, I could only imagine, kids within my age group, similar thing, when their parents are talking about what happened and all that shit. Although I don't really think my parents and I really discussed what happened all that much, except the fact that there are, bad people in the world who want to hurt others, and that's what I saw it as. And over the next few days, kids in school, we're just trying to, live our lives, do our shit, but it's always in the back of our thoughts, like, well, there's this whole thing called terrorism, which again, it's a word that I never fucking heard of before, but here we are just dropping it left, right, and center every day now. Terrorism, terrorists, and you could just see the kids, because we're kids, you don't really know anything, no real context as to what you're doing in life, no real, sense of reality. So you're just talking left, right, and center, just picking up from what you hear from adults and just talking random shit with the kids. And yeah, I mean, 9/11, that Tuesday was really only mentioned explicitly in whispers amongst kids. But for us, it's kind of like how kids in the 21st century right now, 2020, in the 20s, right? They are relaying information by sending memes, but at this time we don't have computers and smartphones and shit like that. This is 2001. We're just still talking shit amongst each other and laying the same useless jokes that people fucking say on television. But when you looked at the adults, throughout that week after 9/11, when you observe their interactions with other adults and then just the general vibe from adults all around, it was weird. It was weird because they just had this palpable air of paranoia and fear around them, and these are valid paranoias and fears, especially after a domestic terrorist attack like that one, the biggest fucking attack on home soil in the United States history. And questions will pop into people's heads. You know, why did this happen? How did this happen? And there's so many perspectives as to what happened that day, obviously. We sit here 19 years later in 2020 with a bevy of information and, different, perspectives. And of course, people have conspiracy theories and we call it conspiracy theory, but I just call it a well documented perspective that is marginalized because it doesn't follow the mainstream narrative. Will I go in depth with some of these ideas and thoughts? No, not today. Not today's episode. But here's the thing. When I read stuff from QAnon and, threads from the deep bowels of 4chan, I do take that with a grain of salt. And despite the fact there are numerous receipts, weird coincidences, and just odd timing all around the incident, I don't believe I have the adequate amount of information nor the confidence in the data to really discuss it all that much. And I think on the day like today, like on the specific day of 9/11, I don't think it's right to throw that perspective out, and because that's a discussion for another day, right? Today is more of a day of remembrance kind of deal for understanding and appreciating the perspective of what true heroes are. And those heroes are police officers, firefighters, and healthcare workers who are, you know, part of that first responder squad, in New York City on the ground when the towers fell. And, you know, the word heroes is thrown around a lot, whether it's a sandwich or whether it's the dude who brought the fucking six pack when the boys were running low in the house and shit. Heroes are people who inherently understand sacrifice, duty, and really the pain of the world, yet they are able to really go beyond their human selves and reach deep down to be a light to humanity. I don't really know what else to say about that, really. I mean, you hear harrowing stories of brave men and women all, all over New York City in that morning on Tuesday. And you have videos and pictures of truckloads of firefighters, going in along with police officers rushing into the danger to save men and women. And you got healthcare workers on the spot too, first responder, emergency care folks, making sure, the injured are taken care of at least far away from the blast radius and then distance of, the rubbles and everything. And these, nameless heroes and heroines, they deserve a massive shout because without them, the world would be a shittier place. And of course, I mean, it's 19 years later. We don't know the specific ramifications of individuals, efforts and actions and how the ripple effect has, been traced to now. But man, when you have such a chaotic and just soul crushing event in your own country like that, or in the case of New York City, in your own city like that, it's these nameless heroes and heroines that you should really look to and say thank you, because man, it's just crazy to think that somebody has the fucking balls to run into the rubble, run into the flame, run into the explosion and say, I need to save everyone. Without thinking about themselves, they just say, I need to save everyone. I need to save that guy right there. I need to save that woman right there. That's a hero. That's a fucking hero. And it's crazy to me because while thinking about that, you have the aftermath of how mainstream media is picking this up. Words like Al Qaeda, Afghanistan, Iraq, Middle East, terrorism, Muslim, Arab, all become media buzzwords, and everyone was keeping their eye on it. And man, it was wild too because you had this constant feeding of fear and tailored information to put people in a frenzy. And what I recall specifically back in 2001 too was that because of these, shall we say, just constantly generated buzzwords, that Muslim phobia was real. Like people having this insane xenophobia against people of Muslim background was absolute insanity, right? I mean, you had the whole, oh, if he has a fucking beard and and a goddamn head wrap, he's a fucking terrorist. I remember shit like that back in 2001. Those were like real fucking thing. You pop in the fucking news every goddamn day. And yeah, George W. Bush, face and center, and all this crap happening in 2001. And we know we had 8 years of dick after that too, right? Dick Cheney. But all that, strangely enough, led to the United States just funneling down this wormhole and spiral of insanity down. And I'm just shaking my head right now. It's because when you think about it, these elitist politicians, right? Elitists, they could be politicians, they could be celebrities, they could be, rich oil barons, kings, queens, whatever have you. These rich elitists used such a tragic event and used the sacrificed lives of those brave heroes and heroines to use that shit as a violent segue to get what they want. And what did they want? Well, we saw the United States engage in a never-ending involvement fiesta in the Middle East for well over a decade. And it's crazy that military action was so swiftly taken into the Middle East right after 9/11, where the enemy, the target, was so well known and it was so confidently said that these were the people responsible without any real checking or backing of information, just using the emotion and the fear behind the people to spark conflict. Oh, that's dangerously conspiracy theory shit. No, dude, actually look up through the events of September 11th, probably until December 2001, where you see the trajectory of the United States heading into war. And it's crazy now because, in 2020, you have President Donald Trump bringing peace in the Middle East. After you had early 2000 elitists trying to do everything they can to scurry and profiteer off war. And you got this guy, President Trump, over the last 4 years saying, nah, fuck that. Bringing the troops out, let's bring peace here. And people still hate him. People still hate Donald Trump. It's crazy. TDS is real. Trump derangement syndrome is real, man. And I sit here today in 2020, 19 years later after September 11, 2001, just thinking about all the shit that's going on right now. And here's the thing. All I've been reading this morning about 9/11 has been just the most negative, irrational shit I've ever heard. The overtly politically illiterate left-wing woke communist brigade discounting or shunning the events from 19 years ago is a travesty. It really is. I mean, I hear and read a lot of motherfuckers bringing up this point. What's the difference between Forget 9/11 and Black Lives Matter? They're both political. Why is one more ragged on than the other? And that question infuriated me. That question and that presumption of why one over the other is the stupidest shit. So let me answer the question. What's the difference between Never Forget 9/11 and Black Lives Matter? Because they're both fucking political. All right? Black Lives Matter is a Democrat-funded anti-American communism-fueled terrorist group that seeks to coerce the overzealous propaganda of black supremacy and push racial division all throughout the country by marginalizing and, more often than not, inciting violence on non-blacks. Tell me if I'm wrong, motherfucker. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not a fucking retard. Yeah, lives matter. No shit. But all lives matter, regardless of fucking race. Yet you're gonna fucking sit there and tell me this is a peaceful group? This is a group that helps out everybody, pushes for unity, progressing the United States? You really think that shit? Well, I got fucking 4 goddamn months of evidence to tell you no. There's video clips from everywhere over the internet saying no. So what the fuck are you sitting there telling me that shit? Like, what are you telling me right now? Oh, Black Lives Matter is a great political movement. No. It's a fucking political launder scheme. It's basically a money laundering scheme. And you communist retards just fell for that shit. And the reason why people hate Black Lives Matter as a political movement is straight up because it's a divisive fucking matter. It's a divisive fucking figure in the world today. You have Black Lives Matter doing some insane shit in the name of their organization, hunting pro-Trumpers. Did we forget that shit? Being backed by Antifa. Being backed by all these lazy politicians who are pandering left and right, along with fucking corporations, by the way. And that kind of divisive message is not what the fucking American public needs. Never forget 9/11 is something that people need to hear. People need to understand. Now, listen, I hear the criticism. I do, and I'll address it right now. Because here's a question that you have to pop into your head with Never Forget 9/11. Wasn't Never Forget 9/11 used as a propaganda to fuel the military industrial complex that would see the United States and so many other countries engaged in bloody conflict for more than a decade because the war game makes money? Yeah, I'm not fucking ignoring that shit. Are you fucking kidding me? Hell yeah, this was basically impetus for the goddamn governments of the world to say, hey, war games, let's fucking go. Launch the troops. Keep on going. Bought the shit out of those motherfuckers. I'm not denying that shit. I'm not. I'm not saying the government's perfect. Trust me. Far from it. But just focusing on that one aspect is utterly ridiculous. Because what the message in my mind for Never Forget 9/11 is very simple. It's a reminder that everyday normal people can do extraordinary things. And you had these first responders, men and women, doing their daily jobs. And when called upon to go above and beyond, to not only save people, but save the city, they did it. And I don't care how politicians try to destroy and ruin messages like this. Because they will. I mean, politicians are absolute pieces of shit. They're one of the few entities within, our society that we should absolutely defund. Them, politicians, athletes, celebrities, mainstream media, social media corporations, like these motherfuckers need to be defunded. They do. And to sit here and ignore the great work that first responders and these everyday, heroes do, it's crazy. Heroes and heroines, man. And over the last few months, we've heard all these stupid fucking phrases, all these stupid ass fucking arguments, and one of the worst arguments I hear all the time is defund the police, right? Abolish the police. Motherfucker, if you did that shit, 9/11 would have been a takeover of New York by terrorists. Yeah. Just remember that shit. Because first responders were there to limit the damage, to save people, and bring some semblance of peace during a time of chaos. And that crazy stretch of hours on Tuesday morning of September 11, 2001. I sit here today, boys and girls, telling you that we must fund the police. We must fund the firefighters. We must fund the healthcare workers. And the fact that these politicians, union leaders, and administrators make more money doing nothing, pushing paper and agenda, is disgusting. I think these fucking top-heavy asshole executives don't really deserve shit. You're just fucking sitting there, with your fucking thumb up your ass while foot soldiers are actually doing the work. Those people on the ground, police officers, firefighters, healthcare workers, those fucking day-to-day people, those 12 plus hour people. Sometimes you get close to like 20 goddamn plus hours on a shift, no matter what fucking, field you're in there, especially within the healthcare, firefighter, police officers and first responders. Yeah, there's not a lot of time to fucking breathe. So why not compensate them? Why not give them more fucking money? So that way, mentally, financially, spiritually, you could just kind of help them balance out, right? But no. I haven't actually looked at the average salaries for all these individual, professions. But I can only imagine the median is kind of dog shit all around in the United States, and that is something that has to be looked into. And I truly think, defunding from the useless motherfuckers up top and reallocating those funds possibly to those foot soldiers. I that's what should be happening. That's what needs to happen in my mind. Because when a society shuns, ignores those who bravely march in the face of danger and willingly lay their lives down for the greater good, it's a sad day in the world. We need to honor those heroes. We need to respect those heroines. We need to remember them. Never forget 9/11. That's what the fuck that shit means, motherfucker. That's why the fuck I'm okay with a majority of sports leagues right now pushing that on social media. Black Lives Matter, cancel that shit. That is dog shit political messaging. Remember 9/11? It's about unity. It's about the normal person doing the extraordinary when push comes to shove. That's America. That's America. Not this communist bullshit that BLM and all these retarded Antifa fucks and soy boy cucked assholes keep fucking preaching to you. America is a place where the ordinary can become the extraordinary. And for those of you who tell me, oh, that's not the right fucking thing to take away from this shit, shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of here. The United States is a breeding ground of the best in meritocracy. If you motherfuckers can't see that, leave. Leave. Simple. Let's never forget, guys. Never forget. Because ultimately, never forget the sacrifices of the brave men and women, but never forget the warmongering politician who used this as impetus to launch war games overseas. This is the reality where the human aspect of myself understands the sacrifice. They understand the humans who believed in peace and wanted to change the world for the greater good. But there is an ominous force behind everything we do. And these are elitists. These are pieces of shit. And we're watching the deep state just kind of flush itself down nowadays. So hopefully our world can take steps into betterment and learn from the sacrifices of those in 9/11. Never forget, man. The ordinary can do the extraordinary. That's America. That's America. And on the next episode of the Sky Lounge, what is going on in this clown world, kids? I don't fucking know. But you bet your ass I'm going to be here talking about this goddamn clown world and what I think of it. And if you want to tune in, you know what you have to do. All right, motherfuckers. I appreciate you dropping by this episode. Follow me at the Sky Lounge on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. And also check out the Sky Lounge on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And until next time, kids, fuck off.